welcome everyone to the Intangibles with me, Kenny, and my brother, Matt.
Hey, yo.
Welcome, Matt.
Thanks.
This is our first recording together in person.
It's true.
For this podcast.
Normally I'm looking at your face through the webcam, so
Yeah.
it's nice.
But with the power of science and vaccines, we now are in the same building at the same time.
And don't forget about automobiles and freeways. And I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, a lot of technologies are involved in this. Okay, we can admit that. We've got a great show lined up for you today. I know that because I picked the segments. We've got Play of the Game as always. We're going to be doing a level up that is League of Legends focused, but more broadly applicable as well.
Sure.
And then we've got the breakdown, which is also going to have a League of Legends slant, but is going to be a bigger conversation.
Definitely.
So let's get into it. Play of the Game.
Poke chat, poke chat, poke chat, poke chat.
I'm going to let you go first.
Me first?
Yeah.
All right. For my, play of the game this week, I am nominating what is known in the Overwatch world as C9. So this is named after Cloud9, which was a professional Overwatch team before Overwatch League became a thing. This is the early stages of Overwatch League, basically. That team eventually turned into the London Spitfire, but they were guilty 3 separate times in the same match of basically they got so focused on the fight and who they were fighting that they stepped away from the payload long enough that the overtime ticker went down to 0 and they lost each of those. So they're winning fights in 3 different cases, but no one was calling out that they needed to be on the payload. And so they end up losing 3 different times in this one match because of the C9. I always, when I'm playing, relish when an enemy team C9s and they just give you the free win. It's wonderful. It feels great. You just sit there and you laugh. You know, you're like, yes, they gave it to us. I love it, every bit of it. Sucks when your team does it. But that is my nomination for Play of the Game this week.
So is it going to C9 the team, or is it just like the enemy team
The concept,
C9ing?
yes. The concept of the enemy team C9ing and giving you a victory.
Okay, interesting. This is definitely our most abstract Play of the Game to date.
It's going to just keep getting more and more out there as we proceed. You know, tune in a year from now, it's not going to make any sense.
Yes, I'm nominating the concept of free will.
yeah, perfect. I'll write that one down.
Okay, that's good. Mine is a little more concrete, but I mean, it's only fitting with the show, The Intangibles, that we're getting increasingly intangible as we go.
Exactly. Yeah, can't put your finger on it as easily.
Okay, so mine is similar. So speaking of the age of getting vaccinated during COVID, we had just recently, in fact, less than a week ago, we were, for the first time in a year, all together with our family. And we all love playing games. It's one of our main pastimes to just spend time with each other. And we recently, the game of choice with the entire family, because we have a big family, has been a card game called Shanghai. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is a real game or if my mom made it up. She insists that it's a game that exists and she played with her sisters when she was young. And basically what it amounts to is you are dealt a hand of 11 cards. It's multiple stacks, multiple decks, but you have 11 cards. And the whole goal is you're trying to get certain sequences of cards. So in one round of the game, you might be trying to get 3 of a kind and a run of 5. And a run means they go sequentially in order and are the same suit. So a straight flush of 5 cards.
Yep.
And you do this, there's a deck of cards in the middle. You flip one over, you can choose to pick it up and add it to your hand. And if you don't, everyone else gets a chance to bid on it and see if they can get it, and they get some more cards. So in this past visit, our father introduced a new element to this game. All right, so that's backstory number 1. Backstory number 2 has to do with auctioning.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
So in Southern Illinois, I'll speak for just that, but I think it's a bigger thing. I know it's a bigger thing in the Midwest. I know it's a bigger thing in the South as well. When you hire an auctioning house to auction off something, or you go to a fair, a state fair, a county fair, whatever it is, and they will be auctioning off livestock, whatever it is, you hire an auctioneer. And there is like some weird form of artistry to auctioneering, and a big part of it involves the cadence that you use to do it.
The cadence you use to speak whatever gibberish it is while you're...
So they're just saying, I mean, at the end of the day, what are they saying? They're saying the current bid is $20. Does anyone want to bid $25? That's what they're saying. But I guess the idea is like auctions are boring otherwise. So they're like spitting this little rap. And a normal one would be like, I'm going to bid right now. I'm going to bid right now. 15, 15, out here 20, 20, 25, 25, 30. I'm going to bid. Like,
takes me back to my roots.
Yeah, that's what it's like. You can smell the pig shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Even as I say that.
You can see the Jasper County Fairgrounds.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the typical. And Dad was reminiscing about a pair of brothers that he knew. One of the brothers sounded like that, basically.
Like your classic, yeah.
And the other one had a real deep, like as God voice, and was really a slow speaker, but had the same like gibberish, but spoken in a different way. And so Dad's impression was "Abba-da-bee." And so he brought that up and told that story, and then for the rest of the entire weekend when we would play, and so I wanted to pick up a card, it was "Abba-da-bee." And Shanghai is a hellish game.
It is.
It's not even a game, really. It's like a card game equivalent of Candyland, in my opinion.
If you want to play a card game for like 6 hours in order to complete it, this is the one for you.
It's like a combination of Candyland, because there's no real like game there, and also Monopoly or Risk in that it takes so long. That's Shanghai. So I enjoy it because I'm with the family, but Abdabid made it that much more enjoyable. And that is, to me, definitional, intangible play of the game for Dad.
I mean, I was crying, laughing, like about to wet my pants when this was going on whatever night that was that it came up. It was absurd.
Yeah, that's going to be a classic.
I'll vote for Abdabid this week because, that's you can't touch it.
Tom gets the play of the game. Congratulations to Tom.
Woohoo, my gosh.
Okay, let us pivot then into our second segment, a level up. And this is going to be a kind of a different one, and maybe this will be more my style of level up. This is where we talk about how to up your game. Maybe a specific game, maybe more broadly, just being competitive and playing games in general. This is one of the most classic pieces of advice that has really stuck with me since getting into competitive video gaming in particular. So I came into League of Legends. Now I've been playing for a long time. I've been playing League for 7-8 years, something like that. But I came to it a little bit late. My friends have been playing from the beginning.
Is this the longest competitive game that you've played?
Yes, and actually been playing online competitively.
Sure.
If you want to just talk, yeah, I think it wins easily. I was going to say Smash Brothers, but that was just 1 year.
Sure.
1 year I played Smash Brothers.
Was that online, or was that still just local with friends?
That was just local with friends.
Throwing down.
Yes, but the reason I'm tempted to say Smash might have it is just like I have never been so obsessed with a game.
Sure.
But I don't even think that's true. Like I've played a lot more League at this point and thought about it a lot more on a deeper level. When you go online, it's a whole different thing than when you're just playing with your friends.
Very true.
So I got into League a little bit late, a few years late. My friends had already been playing, and I started playing. I played a little bit of Dota before. This is original Dota. And I was getting into it, and I was asking my friend Troy, hey, I want to learn more about the game. Is there a streamer I should be watching? And he said, check out Skara. So Skara he was a former pro League of Legends player. When I was watching him, he was a pro player. He then transitioned for a brief stint into pro coaching, and then he transitioned into pro streaming, and now he's kind of a variety streamer. He does teamfight tactics mostly, but he does a bunch of different stuff.
Gotcha.
But he played for a long time, and the thing that made him so great is just how much he explained what he was doing and why he was doing it. It was a very educational stream, and he was a very chill dude and very tilt-proof. So he was just really good. And I remember early on watching him, he gets asked a bunch of questions. A lot of questions come up again and again. And at one point, I think the question that triggered this, someone asked, how do you deal with when you're super fed on your team and your teammates are just feeding their asses off and cost you the game? How do you deal with that tilt? And this is the level up. This is the piece of advice he gave. He's like, if you are the most fed member of your team, if you're the best or the most powerful or whatever it is, and you lose, that means it's your fault. You messed up. You could have done better. The responsibility is on you if you are the most fed member of your team.
Sure.
That's the mentality you should start with. he added some nuance into that. He's like, of course, there are times when it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. But if you want to improve, that's the attitude you should have. It's like, if I'm the best person on my team, I need to be the one who carries and makes the difference. I shouldn't be surprised that other people aren't making the difference.
Yep.
And I think that is just super powerful for League or any team-based competitive game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that's a mindset almost, right? Where no matter what's going on in the game, you're not going to go down this spiral of, it's my team's fault. You want to stay on, what can I change? What can I do to impact whatever's going on here?
Yeah.
I've certainly been there. You're playing the game and you're screaming about your shitty ass teammates.
We've done it today.
Yeah, did it hours ago. Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to get into. And yeah, if you're wanting to improve and get better, then that mindset is not going to help.
It doesn't help you at all.
No, exactly.
It doesn't add anything to say my teammates suck. It's like, even if that's true, it's like, okay.
Yeah, if you are better than them and you should be at a higher rank, play like it.
Yeah, you will climb if that's the case.
Yep.
Yeah, it's something that really stuck with me and is still a lesson that I am trying to learn and teach myself, because it's so tempting to blame the team. And what this comes down to is, at the end of the day, you only have control over one person.
Right.
When you play.
Yeah.
Make sure that person is doing the best that they can.
Yeah. Even if you're duoing or with a couple people in a game, you can't control what they're doing either, right? And you can have comms and be working together and stuff, but yeah, like you said, ultimately you are only in control of yourself.
Yeah.
So what can you do? What can you change to be better?
Yep. So real simple, but I think that's why it sticks with me so hard.
Yeah, and I think it speaks volumes that 7 years later or whatever, it's still, not only is it important, but you still have to think about it to really.
It's still something to make progress on.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's just innate still at this point. You have to force yourself to think that way.
Right. Absolutely. Same as pushing the point,
Yeah.
Even to this day.
Exactly. They say they're still there, almost on the payload to this day.
Is that a C9?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Let's break it down. What do you think?
I'm ready.
Oh, let's break it down! Why are you so angry?
Okay, so I want to start with an anecdote before I dive into the main topic.
I can't wait.
The anecdote, it's really just talking about a character in League of
Warm
Legends.
myself by the fire while you tell us this story.
With my old dog and a bracing shot of brandy.
That's right.
So I am the League player here. You know some stuff about League, because I talk about it all the time.
I have a very basic understanding of the game.
You watched games with me. Okay, so there is a champ in League who at this point I think is 2 years old. I think of him as a new champ, but that's just how the game works.
Sure.
I was like freaking out my friends I played League with by saying, hey, guess what year so-and-so came out, which we all think of as a new character. That's 3 years old. So this is probably a couple years old. His name is Pike.
Okay.
He's called the Bilgewater Ripper.
The Bilgewater Ripper.
He's like a serial killer. He's like a
Jack the Ripper kind of guy.
It's exactly right. And he is a support assassin.
Ooh, interesting combo.
Yes, and that's the crux of what I want to talk about. So let me describe his abilities and see if I can remember them. So his passive, I don't know what, he has several different passives, but one of them is when he goes, let me just start with the basic kit and flesh it out from there. So he has one ability where he throws out a hook and pulls someone to him, very much like a Roadhog kind of thing. And it's a good, there are a bunch of different hooks. He has a pretty good one. He charges up for a little bit, pulls you to them. He then has a dash, which having mobility on any champion is good.
Always good, yeah.
But his dash, he leaves behind where he came from a little ghost version of himself that then whips to his current location. And anything that ghost passes through on the enemy team gets stunned.
Oh.
So
just crowd control.
There's already a combo there. You hook someone in, you dash through them, they're stunned for like 3 seconds. He has another ability where he goes invisible, straight up. And when he's invisible, he starts regaining health that he's lost recently.
Jesus Christ.
You're getting the idea here. And then his final ability is an execute, a true execute.
Where does the support come in?
He supports by killing everyone on the enemy team.
Okay, all right.
So his ultimate is once an enemy gets below a certain threshold, and you can see where that threshold is, he blinks to the location and kills them. No, doesn't matter resistances or anything, they die.
Done.
If he does successfully kill them, or they die while his ult's on them, it resets.
Oh.
So he can just do it again.
So if you're good at hitting that, and you've got more targets, you
and it's a big X-shaped mark on the screen. It's like, imagine like if a champion's like a champion here and a champion on each point of the X. That's how big the ult is.
Gotcha.
Can
I ask a stupid question?
Yes, you may.
Because I don't really understand the different classes, I guess, in League of Legends. So what typically does a support have that differentiates itself to be in that support role versus whatever else?
So there are different kinds of supports. You have supports that are mostly going to be healing.
Okay.
So think Mercy. There are supports that give other bonuses, like Lucio, maybe
boost your
speed
stats,
boost your attack, that kind of thing. And then there are some supports that are a little more intangible, that have things going on that are utility. So, for example, one of my favorite champs is Bard, and he has an ability where he puts a tunnel through a solid wall that you and your teammates can walk through.
Oh, okay.
And he has an ultimate where he throws this big circle down, and whatever it hits gets put into stasis. So you're stunned if you're in it, and it hits allies and enemies alike. You're stunned, you can't move, but you can't be hurt, you can't deal damage, you're just frozen.
Interesting.
So those kinds of things go into support.
Gotcha. Okay.
And as you say, where does the support come in on this guy? So one last very important detail. Whenever Pyke kills someone with his ult, he shares the full gold value with whoever else did damage to it recently. So it doubles the gold that you earn for the kill.
Oh. So you're just piling up your cash by securing those. That's how it's supported the team.
Yep. And I think this champion is ridiculous. Not just in terms of he's very strong. I think he is an abomination, and I would be very happy if he was deleted.
Is he still in this state currently?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's been, as far as I am concerned, and maybe this is saying something about where I am in the ranks, he has been a monster from get-go, and he's still a monster. The thing about him, because his ult does that damage, it's not based on his scales up with his stats, but it's just based off of how much his ult is leveled up. So his levels, you can keep this character down and really try to squash him down for the whole game. If he gets a few multi-kills just randomly, because he gets resets and he kills him below his threshold,
you've already lost it.
He's earned his team an extra 3,000 gold, and he's back in the game.
Wow.
He's just so hard to keep down. The reason I want to talk about him is that initial thing I said, that he's a support assassin. You said, where's the support come in? They even joke about it because he has a voice line. If you get a pentakill with him...
Did I support right?
He's just trolling.
even they know. Is this isn't a support? What is this? What I want to talk about is design creep, and a particular kind of design creep that I have railed against many a time, which are these designers who are like, all right, we've got a tank, but what if it was a sniper tank? We've got the support. What if it was an AD carry support, which they've also introduced into League of Legends? They're just like comboing all these things.
It's like they're running out of ideas almost, and they're just smashing stuff together.
And it dilutes all the other champs. It's like, why would I play this champ that's just a support when I could just be a full carry and a support at the same time? Sure. I can provide heals. There's a newer champ called Senna, who is a support ADC. So she's a support. She can heal with her gun, kind of like an Ana style thing. But she's infinitely stacking. Every once in a while, souls will drop nearby, and she can pick them up. And the more souls you pick up, the more powerful her gun becomes. And there's no cap to that. So the longer it goes, she just gets more and more strong until eventually she's one-shotting people.
Gotcha.
I hate this style of design.
It does just feel like it's a misclassification, right? Like, I don't really understand. I don't know, it's kind of bizarre.
So before I press on with some more things, do you see this going on in Overwatch at all?
So, Overwatch, the state of Overwatch right now is, and if you look up a lot of pros, a lot of big streamers, high-level players, the state of Overwatch right now is in one of the best states it's been in. And it's been like this for a little bit now. I think last year at some point there was a huge patch that they came through with because they were having the same thing. They had a power creep issue where the new champs that they were introducing had these complicated kits, and they made basically like I think specifically when Sigma came out, like that's the one that I played a lot. I still play a lot. He's still very powerful, but he's tuned into a place where he's much more
reasonable.
Yeah, it feels like he still gets a lot of value, but he doesn't just mow everybody
Just
down.
doesn't walk around shooting people twice in the head.
When he came out, there was a period of time where nobody in the tank line basically would play anything but Sigma and Orisa or some other tank.
Sigma X.
Yeah, and a lot of times it was Sigma Orisa because then you would have your snipers who are dealing a ton of damage to behind those double shields, and it becomes this really long range sniper battle with these tanks that are. Orisa really wasn't in like a super strong place outside of.
She's just giving a shield.
Yeah, more or less, and she had her halt. Her halt's a very powerful tool, but Sigma when he came out, the amount of damage that he put out was insane. Just the most damage of any tank as far as I'm concerned. I remember, my win rate on him was in the 70s. For a long time because he was just so good, so overpowered. He had that shield. The initial cooldown was half a second. It might have even been a little less than that. It was basically you could put it out, drop it. Put it out, drop it.
I was going to say,
put it out, drop it.
I might be misremembering, but I feel like they just didn't have a cooldown when he first came out.
It was a really brief one. It
might as well not have existed.
Basically, because by the time you dropped it,
back.
You could basically put it right back out.
Not to mention that you had another invulnerability move that you could use.
Your shields. Exactly. So, like, if you use his cooldowns properly, you're putting out your shield wherever you need it to block off angles. You're slurping up damage from people and just building your own shields. And then you're just dumping out gravity orbs and bouncing them off walls and killing people. And there's a lot more examples in there. But it forced the game into the state where a lot of high-level people hated it. Because they didn't feel like they could play a lot of the champs from early in the game.
There's no reason to play anything else.
Yeah, and a lot of the champs from early in the game just felt like an afterthought. Reinhardt was just unplayable for a long time.
I've already got this huge shield that I can project forward, call back. I've got so much more.
I have reach with Sigma, whereas I don't have, Reinhardt's just got his hammer. He's melee range only.
I've got reach CC with Sigma.
And his ult his ult, you can literally just pick people up and do half their health and damage. He's the one example
that
sticks.
Pick them off the payload.
Yeah, you can literally C9 the other enemy team with him. You still can. That's pretty awesome. But he's the one example that I really noticed because I played him a lot where that was the case. And again, if you go back in time, when they made these balance changes, there was a period where they did several patches and did some balance changes and got heroes into a place where it doesn't feel like anybody's oppressive. It doesn't feel like at those high levels you have to play somebody or you're going to lose. Which is just good for the game. It's good for fun. People want to enjoy the game when it comes down to it, and feeling forced into a pick takes a lot of that enjoyment out of it.
Yeah, feeling like you're inting if you're not picking Mercy or whatever it is.
Right.
Does not feel good.
Yep.
For sure. Speaking of design creep, I wanted to research this a little bit more. So this is from uxdesign.cc, an article by Ian Batterby, who's just defining feature creep. And this is more about like software and UX design, but it applies to what we're talking about. Feature creep, also known as software bloat, scope creep, creeping featureism, or featureitis, occurs when extra features go beyond the basic function of a product. This product phenomenon is a result of designing for feature-led experiences rather than user-centered ones. And that last line, I think, is the key thing. I think designers get obsessed with... I think they just get in their heads like, what would a marksman tank look like? What would it look like if you had a damage dealer who is also a tank? That's really interesting. How would I design that? And they get so interested, and even when I said, I think when I was describing earlier the support marksman, you were like,
Yeah, you said support assassin or something like that, where it's like, okay, someone who's supposed to be aiding the team in accomplishing their goals has also in their title someone who's going to secretly, sneakily kill that enemy players.
It has the wow value, and I get why that's appealing, both from a design perspective. It's a challenge for the designer. You say it to the player base, and they're like, oh, let me check this out. But I think it ignores what the user experience is, which is, okay, let's say I'm an assassin player, and in bot lane there's a support assassin who's picking up all the gold. It's like, what am I here for? Like, what's the purpose of me? And I think, like you're saying, that design creep really makes irrelevant earlier champions, earlier designs that you've created. That's the problem I have.
It makes them obsolete, basically.
Yeah. I just think it's such a basic thing. It's like I don't know how to talk about it. It's like, guess what? Tanks should be tanks. Damage dealers should be damage dealers. Why do we need to mix these up?
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you basically get rid of the classes when you do that, and then again, you're destroying those characters who fit into those classes originally.
It's kind of like in Magic the Gathering, when you make mana fixing too good, all the decks just become soup. It's just like, just play all the best cards with all just the
5-color nonsense for everybody.
It doesn't feel like different decks are trying to do different things.
Sure.
And that's the problem I have with these new champions.
It doesn't have an identity anymore.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't have an identity because you assign multiple identities to the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, and when you keep piling that up, eventually you're going to have teams that are just made of all these like multi-class things that can be, especially in League, where an important part of it is drafting. Like drafting which champs you want to play.
Right.
A super valuable thing in League, and what makes a champ a high pick priority, is when they can fill multiple roles. So if I pick a champion that could be a mid laner, or could be a top laner, or could be a support, then you don't have much information to work with.
Sure.
You don't know what I'm doing with it.
Sure.
And I can move it. Like, depending on what you do, I can move it somewhere else and counterpick you in return. Mm-hmm. And the more of these muddled roles you introduce to the game, the harder and harder it is for the enemy team to decide what it is you're actually trying to do.
Sure, to actually plan for anything.
So, it's not good. I don't like that. Okay, so you've already brought this up a few times in our discussion, which is power creep, which is a different topic, but it is very closely related. The thing is, as your player base understands the game more and more, you as a designer might feel the need to throw more at them. Like, our player base understands this game, like games like Overwatch or League or Magic or whatever it is, where you're adding to the game. You're adding new elements, new features to the game. They get this, so I need to introduce something more complex for them to understand. So the temptation is there to just add more stuff. And this, I looked up 2 champions in League, and I just wrote down their passives, which I want to read to you.
All right.
So here's an old champion named Janna. Here's her passive. Innate. Janna gains 8% bonus movement speed and grants the same amount to nearby allied champions moving towards her. Janna's basic attacks and Zephyr deal bonus magic damage equal to 25 to 35% of her bonus movement speed. That's Janna.
Okay.
Older champ. Here's Viego, a newer champ.
Innate. Whenever an enemy champion is killed by Viego or dies within 3 seconds of being damaged by him, a Mist Wraith spawns from their corpse for 8 seconds. Viego can basic attack a Mist Wraith to possess it, heal himself for 8%, plus various bonuses, multiple bonuses, of the target's maximum health, and blink to its location after winding up for 1 second, during which he is untargetable. Possession lasts for 10 seconds and replaces Viego's basic attacks, abilities, items, base stats, and appearance with the champion the Mist Wraith was summoned by, and grants him a free cast of Heartbreaker that is initially placed on a 1.5 second cooldown. Viego also gains 10% bonus movement speed while moving toward enemy champions during this time. Viego cannot use item actives, consumable items, nor the shop while under possession. Viego will preserve the current health percentage between transformations.
Jesus.
That's his passive.
I think I picked up about 5% of that.
And like,
I wouldn't even know how to play. You know, like
there's so much information there. I mean, pro players, I feel so bad for them having to keep track. I mean, that's what they're getting paid for, I suppose.
Sure.
But like, that's so much information.
Seriously.
And that's like, and the reason I picked the passive in particular is like, this is supposed to be the thing that you don't have to think about.
Right. It's just happening behind the scenes. You don't worry about it. You understand that this is what happens by existing, basically.
Right. Or, I mean, okay, so this is getting into kind of the end of my discussion here, which is, what is the alternative to this? Because I understand the designer's conundrum, where you have a dedicated player base that understands the game really well and would like to get more advanced, more complex, more interesting gameplay. And so the temptation to just design creep, just throw more shit at it, is very high. But I don't think that's the only thing you can do. So I'm going to talk about alternatives. So I'm going to give one of them, and then while I'm providing that, maybe you'll have an idea or spark an idea.
Sure. We'll see.
So the number one, this is the easiest one.
Maybe I'll be idealess.
Maybe. The easiest one, in my opinion, is kind of a cop-out, which is don't be afraid to just make bread and butter simple champions.
Sure.
There's nothing wrong with simple champions.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a new champion in League now. This is an old champion by now. But I remember when it came out, there was a long string of champs where I was like, God, these champions are so complex. And then this new champ came out, and it was like a breath of fresh air. His name is Braum.
Is it the mustache? Who knows?
He is a support. He's a big, tanky beefcake. He's a huge, muscle-bound man with no shirt, a big mustache, and a giant shield. What does he do? He puts the shield up, which blocks things. He jumps to allies and gives them, like, some stat bonus. He attacks things, and after a few attacks, he'll stun them. And his ult is just he slams his shield down and knocks people up. There's nothing more complicated to him than that. He is a great champ. He's a great design, both like gameplay and character design. He still gets played at the highest level and at low levels, and he's just a simple champion. You don't have to make things super complicated for it to be fun and engaging and interesting.
Yeah, and I think too, regardless of if it's fun and interesting and engaging to make those complicated champs, I'm thinking of Echo in my head from Overwatch, where it's like, okay, of course playing Echo is fun. You have her auto attack is awesome. You can throw sticky bombs that just demolish squishies. You can beam down half health enemies in an instant. And to top it all off, your ultimate is you copy somebody, get a full health bar, you can build their ultimate at 600% speed, and then you get your full health bar back after you're done with it. That's horrible to play against when it comes down to it. And they've tuned her a little bit. I think she's in a better spot than she was. She used to be horribly oppressive. But yeah, I mean, every single person.
Fly.
Yes, of course. Every single person who doesn't play damage just hated her when she came out because it was just miserable to play. She could take on anybody, any tank, any support, just anybody. She could beat you in a one-on-one, basically.
I still hate her.
Yeah, I like playing her, but yeah, I think that again, she's in a better spot and maybe could use some tuning, but they've definitely reduced.
So what's your point? What's your connection with bread and butter style champions?
Well, my point is she's not a bread and butter style champion, and
is really annoying.
While being fun for the people who do play her,
gotcha.
It's really unfun for the game on the whole.
Yes, I would definitely agree.
Preparation H does feel good
on the whole.
Exactly.
Okay, you got any alternatives for me?
I
mean, I guess there's a different way I could phrase it that might be helpful, which is what is it like an Overwatch champion that you feel like has a good, interesting design that is not overly complex?
I'm trying to think of one that's more recent, and it's very difficult.
You can go old school.
Very difficult.
I think it's good to go old school, and because there are some old champions that still hold up.
So the first one that comes to my mind would be McCree. McCree is a cowboy with a 6-shooter. He shoots his gun. You can do your fan the hammer and shoot, 6 times instead of once.
Yeah.
You can stun. You can do the flashbang and stun people from a short distance.
Which is just you point, throw it,
pop. You stun them, and they're stunned for a quick second. You might be able to secure a kill. And then you can do this roll, which is a very mild mobility move. And the biggest perk of it is that you reload during the roll. So if you're in a situation where you need to reload really quick, you just do that quick roll, and then you got 6 shots again, and you can go. So he's just super basic in that sense, and he still is played all the time today. He's still played at highest ranks, at low ranks. His ultimate is, again, he's a cowboy. He literally just says, reach for the sky or something stupid like that.
It's high noon.
Yeah, and he's standing up there glowing, and he can one-shot you. But it's really easy to counter that if you're able to see where he's at. He has to be in a position where nobody can shoot him because he's just totally exposed when he does it. He can't do anything other than be locked into that animation.
I think it's a testament to these champs that are really well designed when they can beat really good at low ranks, which McCree is. He has that. When you first start playing, you'll see a lot of McCree play the games where he just kills 5-6 people.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be part of the 6 kill that he does.
Yeah. But he's still good at high level, even though, a great McCree ult will kill 1 or 2 people at the highest level, and he's still good.
Yeah, I mean, literally, his gun is just good. He's a good, simple damage output champ. That's what he does. He's great at it. He doesn't do anything else fancy.
So don't be afraid to have a simple champ. That's number 1. Number 2, I would say that if you want to make the game interesting to players who are enfranchised, who have played it a ton, know all about it, things other than the champions can be changed as well. And this is what League excels at. Every season, which is a year long in League of Legends, they make some big change. It might be changes to the map, the way it's laid out, the elements that are on it, the monsters that you encounter, the bonuses that you can get by walking around. It might be the items, which was the case this year. Totally revamped the item shop. So you have all kinds of different build paths you can go, different active slots that you can have. It might be they revamped the runes a few years ago, so like all kinds of different brews that you can have with champs, different possibilities. If you want to introduce complexity, champions aren't the only route that you have available to you in these games.
Yeah.
And finally, and this is my biggest one that I want to see more than anything, is that an interesting, clever design does not equal complexity. What I mean by that is an interesting, clever, fun, complicated design doesn't mean it needs more text to describe what it does.
Right.
And the example, well, here's an Overwatch example, and I'll give you a League example. An Overwatch example is Tracer. Tracer is very, very easy to describe what she does. Mm-hmm. She has her guns. She can blink forward or in any direction, and it stacks. You can get up to 3 charges on it. She has a rewind ability where she blinks back to where she was a few seconds ago and regains any health that she lost in that time. And she has a little bomb that she throws down as her ult. About as simple as you can get. Like, Reaper is simpler. Junkrat is simpler. I mean, it's a pretty simple champ, but what you can do with those abilities is amazing.
Yep.
And I think that is where clever design lays. If you can describe it, what it does in very simple like terms, but the ceiling of what is possible with it is the interesting part.
Would you consider Hammond in Overwatch to be a simple... I'm very curious on this, because I'm thinking to myself, like, if you describe Hammond to somebody, it isn't really that complicated, right? He can be a ball. He's called Wrecking Ball, right? You can be a ball that rolls around the map and has a grappling hook so you can kind of swing around. And that's, again, sounds simple, but what you can do with it in the game it was brand new. You know, you can't do it with any other character. It totally changes how the maps work on lots of the different maps.
I mean, you're really testing me here.
I'm just genuinely curious because that's not even taking into account like his other abilities, really.
So I think, to answer your question very simply, yes. I think he actually does have cool design built into him. The things that are offensive to me about Hammond are not related to his abilities. The thing that's offensive is that he has tons of abilities that have 0 cooldown.
Sure. Which
I think is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, no champion should have abilities on 0-second cooldowns. Like, how is that not going to be broken? Of course that's going to be broken.
Sure.
He has a CC on a 0-second cooldown.
It's on a couple second cooldown. You're talking about if he knocks you?
No, I'm talking about the
pile drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess technically you have to be able to get up in the air to do it, right? And your grappling hook might be on cooldown for a second or something like that, but yes.
I'm saying that they could nerf those things. That would make him a lot less oppressive at low ranks, mm-hmm. and he would still be fine if you knew how to use him properly.
Sure. Yeah, and they did nerf him fairly recently. His knockback, if he ran into you, was reduced by like 30% or something crazy, which was a necessary nerf. It was, and I know like high level ball players were like, this might kill him. Like this may remove him, and it hasn't removed him. He's still
of course
viable,
he is.
But
surprise.
He like. I just remember, was it on Nepal? It's one of those where you're inside on a platform and there's, you can fall off.
Yeah.
And he could boop you from one side of that platform all the way off the other side of it.
He could be in that little bunker on the side. You don't even know where he is.
And you went flying 100 feet down to your death. And that isn't possible anymore, which that is a very good
that shouldn't be possible.
Improvement to the game.
Why should that be possible?
I'm with you.
So to answer your question, I do think he actually is an interesting design. He introduces a whole new way to interact with the map and move around, which I think is actually cool.
Which is why I was thinking of that when you were talking about that.
I think it is cool. The things I don't like about him have nothing to do with any of that stuff.
Cool.
Okay. The League equivalent that I have in mind is a champ called Oriana, she's like a clockwork ballerina, and she has orbiting around her at all times the ball. It's this little mechanical ball that just floats around her. And all of her gameplay is related to moving this ball around and doing different things with it. So it's a skill shot where you just tell it to go somewhere, and it will just sit there, just sits on the map. The enemy team can't interact with it; just sits on the map. But you can use it to direct it, and if it passes through any enemies, it does damage to them. It has another ability where it bursts around it in a little explosion. She can call it back to her or any of her allies, and it puts a little shield on them, and it damages things that it passes through. And her ult is a shockwave that is like a black hole that sucks anything near the ball into it. A little CC, like a Orisa.
So every single thing that she does is focused around that ball.
The ball, and moving it around, and and the thing I love about it is, again, very simple to describe, but a totally different way of interacting with the game, where everything in the game now is about positioning this ball. Where am I? Where is it? Where is my enemy? And you're doing this dance as you're playing the game, which fits in with the ballerina motif. So that's cool character design as well. But it's very simple to describe, but really fun, interesting, engaging gameplay and a different way to interact with the game. And she has been perennial, like just all the time in especially high levels of play, but she's always been good. And I think the reason she's always been good is Riot wants her to be good because she's so fun to watch and so fun to play.
Sure.
And I think that's a big indicator on what designs are actually successful. What designs does the game consistently press up to be the best or among the best?
Sure.
And those are the ones that should rise to the top. When you get a champion that is just spamming stuff and killing the enemy team, they nerf it because that's not fun to watch. It's not fun to play against. And so this is the thing I want to see the most to compete against design complexity is just cleverness, like something that is engaging without having to be overly complicated.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do. Like that's where the heart of great design is, though, I think.
Yeah, another thing that popped in my head, and I don't know if this is like because of the nature of Overwatch or if all I can think of is mobility stuff, but when Baptiste came out, he's got a crazy kit in general, but his boots...
He suffers from this problem.
Yes, absolutely, but his exo boots are like it was a really cool thing to introduce. Nobody else has that. He has a super jump, basically. You can crouch and build up
charge
this jump. Yeah, and I play a ton of Baptiste, and you have access to areas of the map that you just don't have with lots of other characters.
Especially supports.
Especially supports. So no other support really has any sort of vertical mobility that I can think of. I guess Mercy does.
Mercy does if you're cooperating with somebody.
Right. But yeah, it introduces a whole nother element of what you think of and what you can do in the game. And that's just a simple move, right? A very simple thing. You literally just crouch and you jump high. But it is such a high impact ability that they gave him.
High impact.
Yeah.
Very nice. I mean, those are my big thoughts. I wish that... I mean, it's tough. Like, League of Legends has over 150 champions.
Yeah.
That's a lot of champions.
Yeah.
And I just want them to embrace simplicity, embrace some cleverness. Anytime a champion comes out, the most recent one I can think about in League is a champ called Set, who is like a pit fighter, like pretty boy. So he's this big, buff, like pit fighter, wants to tango with you. He's like a wrestler. And his moves are very simple. He pulls people in on either side of him, like pulls them towards him. He has a giant punch that punches through people. He has, his passive is that he'll, every other attack, or his attacks don't just go hit. He gets hit. And his second hit hits a little bit harder. And his ultimate is he picks someone up and like throws them across the map. Very simple to describe, but like the play pattern is really fun on him. I just want to see more of that. Like, and this isn't like a moratorium. It's not like don't make anything complex ever.
Right.
But I'm sick of it. That's being like, this is the norm.
That's the norm now.
Everything is complex. And then every once in a while we introduce a more simple champion. I think it should be flipped the other way around.
I respect the difficulty of it. You know, like I definitely understand
of the design task.
Yes, absolutely. Like I definitely understand that from a developer's standpoint. It's a very difficult problem, right? It's a very difficult thing to tackle. And you touched on this earlier, but you can make these simple champs, but you have to still make them strong and alluring to play, right? You can't just dump a simple champ out there that nobody wants to play. So they have to be finding that balance between those things.
And also, the simpler a champion is, the weaker they should be overall. Maybe a high floor, but also a low ceiling. Like, there's a lot of knobs to turn.
Right.
Yeah, that should definitely be a part of this. I'm glad you brought that up. Is that this is not to be like these designers know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah. It's
a
definitely
hard job.
I'm trying to think here while we're talking about this of what I would introduce as the next Overwatch champion. I don't have a freaking clue. I don't have any idea. So much time has to go into testing that and seeing how it balances with everything else. I respect it.
Maybe that's a topic for another day. We design our own Overwatch champion.
That could be fun.
That would be really fun.
Yeah, write it down.
Okay, I think that's a good place to leave off then, looking towards the future.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening to the Intangibles. I've been Kenny.
I am Matt.
I am Kenny as well, just to be clear. We hope that you join us next time when we talk about a topic that Matt will come up with.
To be determined. See you next time.
Goodbye.